The Kremlin views Tucker Carlson's commentary as, quote, essential in its wartime messaging strategy. That is according to a leaked 12-page memo from a Russian government agency to the Russian media.
Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Because the target is Russia, very few Americans have noticed any of this. They support it. The point here is to defend democracy. Not that Ukraine is a democracy, it is not a democracy. It might be worth asking yourself, since it is getting pretty serious, what is this really about? Why do I hate Putin so much? Has Putin ever called me a racist?
Is Tucker Carlson in league with Putin? Well, according to the Kremlin, yes. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and Mother Jones recently got their hands on a leaked memo from the Kremlin that referred to Tucker Carlson of Fox News as an essential, that's a quote, an essential part of their propaganda campaign. For most of you watching this, you're probably like, yeah, we already knew that. But when it comes from the Kremlin, it becomes more than just suspicion or speculation or claim, and it falls into the realm of reality. Real quick though, let's talk about propaganda. Here in the US, we always hear about the Russian propaganda machine and their state-controlled news outlets and their silencing of dissenting journalists, etc. While we consider ourselves separate from that kind of mind control, let's call it, we're not. Even for me, when I'm working on stories for you guys, sometimes it's hard for me to find the information that I'm looking for from valid sources. And if you're looking for something unbiased, it's very hard to find in either direction. On that note, the stories from the people that often get widely reported on are either huge generalizations referring to large swaths of a certain population, or they're so specific to an individual that you can't always reliably extrapolate their feelings and thoughts and emotions on a matter to be representative of the whole. So just some things to keep in mind. Speaking of journalists being silenced, by the way, Putin's forces have begun taking the lives of journalists covering the invasion in Ukraine, notably Brent Renaud, who was working on a story for Time magazine when he was shot. This is huge. Killing journalists is supposed to be off limits. But Putin has always been cognizant of the fact that the truth he's enacting is unpopular in the realm of public opinion, or at least it would be if the public had the truth. In the weeks since the invasion started, he's systematically taken down independent news outlets or outlets that don't parrot the Kremlin-approved rhetoric. Since so many dissenting voices have been silenced in both Russia and Ukraine, Russian state TV has used our own American propaganda machine, Fox News, to fill in the gaps. By now, I'm sure we've all seen the clip of Tucker Carlson's show that's gone viral in Russia.
What exactly are they doing in these secret Ukrainian biolabs? Ukraine is the poorest country in Europe. It's hardly a hotbed of biomedical research. We're assuming these weren't pharmaceutical labs, probably not developing new leukemia drugs. From your answer, Toria Newland, we would assume, because you all but said it, that there's a military application to this research, that they were working on bioweapons.
They're airing Tuck's pro-Putin news coverage in Russia to convince the Russian people that Putin's invasion of Ukraine is justified. And it seems to be working. We've heard stories of families being torn apart by divisive dogma, conspiracy theories, intentionally misleading speculation, fear-mongering, etc. Children living in Ukraine can't seem to convince their parents living in Russia about the truth of what's happening in Ukraine. Some Russians are in denial of the carnage and destruction that they have seen, alleging that the people in the videos they've seen are paid actors. And if this isn't starting to sound familiar to you yet, I don't know what to tell you. These Russian propaganda tactics that we so disparage here in the US are literally all over right-wing media, including Fox News. I'd say Tucker Carlson is the most egregious offender here with his now infamous line, "I'm just asking the questions." It's a cowardly tactic that he uses to say whatever he wants to say without taking any of the responsibility for his words. The things he says don't have to be factual if the statement is more interrogative than declarative. What was it, over 20 years ago when Jon Stewart said to Tucker's face that he was hurting America? Yeah, Jon was onto something.
It's not so much that it's bad as it's hurting America. So I wanted to come here today and say,
wait.
Here's just what I wanted to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Stop. Stop Stop hurting America.
Okay.
Now, according to Mother Jones, the leaked memo read, "It is essential to use as much as possible fragments of broadcasts from the popular Fox News host Tucker Carlson, who sharply criticizes the actions of the United States and NATO, their negative role in unleashing the conflict in Ukraine, and the defiantly provocative behavior of the leadership of Western countries and NATO towards the Russian Federation and towards President Putin personally." And there you have it. So Tucker's a shill, no one's surprised. Whether he's been paid to say the things he's been saying or whether he's just doing it for fun remains unclear. But it should be mentioned that the Russians have also been airing clips of Tulsi Gabbard over there. Just a reminder, Tulsi Gabbard actually sued Hillary Clinton in 2020 because Hillary called her a Russian asset. More recently, Gabbard has been pushing the Russian conspiracy theory, which, by the way, has been totally and soundly debunked by American intelligence, that the Ukrainians are using US-funded biolabs to disseminate deadly pathogens to Russians. Mitt Romney called her treasonous.
I will say this once. Ukraine does not have a biological weapons program. There are no Ukrainian biological weapons laboratories supported by the United States, not near Russia's border or anywhere.
As discussed in the news segment that comes from, this could be a case of the Kremlin projecting. They're saying Ukraine might use chemical weapons so that when Putin does use chemical weapons, he can blame it on the Ukrainians and by extension the Americans and say, look, I told you so. If you remember the nightmare that was 2020, this sounds a lot like Trump complaining about voter fraud for months leading up to the presidential election that year, and then squealing voter fraud when he actually lost. Now, I'm not saying the US doesn't have its own messaging problems. Obviously, we do. Thousands of our fellow Americans fell deep into the QAnon/Trump hole. Thousands of us still watch Tucker Carlson's show every night, even though his own network said that he was too ridiculous for anyone to actually believe anything he says. But here's a clip from Ari Melber's show on MSNBC that I think sums it up pretty well. In the face of misinformation or even sketchy information from sketchy sources, if you take a step back and allow yourself to see the human loss that's taking place right now, it's really hard to justify, regardless of how you decide to think of the issue. Geopolitics aside, people are dying and their homes are being destroyed. Apart from wild leaps in logic and impressive levels of cognitive dissonance, there's no spin on that. Here is Michael McFaul, the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine.
I hope that, those that used to call Mr. Putin savvy and smart and isn't he brilliant will look at what's happening in Mariupol and look at the killing of civilians, innocent children, and tell the American people you consider that savvy. It is a time when there is black and white, when there are facts and no facts, and you have to take a stand. And I'm not talking about, First Amendment rights. We all have that. Sure. But nobody has amplification rights to amplify Putin's propaganda.